Thanks, everybody, for coming out this afternoon. I really appreciate you taking the time this afternoon, this evening, to to jump in and really talk about our PDC mission and strategic direction and what role you can play in the coming year. Before I go any further, though, I really do appreciate and the rest of the staff at PDC really do appreciate the contributions of our board. Commissioner Wilhoit and the four other commissioners really do contribute a lot to our mission. I think you can imagine any sort of combination of board members on an agency like this, and we're really fortunate to have 5 very committed commissioners with who all bring very particular expertise to our work, but all share a common commitment to not just the mission and the strategy of our organization, but also to making Portland a better place, as Commissioner Wilhoit mentioned. So thank you very much for your service, Charles. So my job is to walk through our strategic plan, really our strategy as kind of the high-level viewpoint on our work, and then I think, as the agenda states, we're going to dive into specific topic areas later on, so you can really we can really dig into the areas that are of interest to you and ask very specific questions. But it usually helps to start with a higher level view, and we a few years ago now, over 3 years ago, we implemented a brand new economic development strategy, the first economic development strategy in over 15 years at the time. And when the strategy was adopted, I think there was probably some uncertainty about what that really meant for PDC and the mission of PDC. And I can tell you, having worked on that strategy and been in conversations with the mayor and city council and our board, the intent all along was for it really to be the driving strategy for PDC as well. And so that's obviously taken some time to make that organizational change, but it really is the guiding strategy for our work. And so our strategic plan, which this really is reflective of our strategic plan, is really what the economic development strategy looks like as an organizational strategic plan. The economic development strategy had 3 key areas of focus: strong economic growth and competitiveness, around traded sector job growth, kind of how you really drive growth in the economy. The second area was healthy neighborhoods. How do we make sure that we have healthy, vibrant neighborhoods, and particularly a thriving small business economy within each of our neighborhoods, but also connecting our neighborhoods to the broader regional growth. And then the third area was in the strategy was referred to as urban innovation, and you'll see that section in a second. But in our strategic plan, it's really a vibrant central city. But it's how we take our historic redevelopment mission, particularly as it relates to our downtown work, and have that focused on our job creation objectives. And you'll see we've done that. We've positioned that in a number of ways, both in terms of promoting kind of the latest, the next generation thinking around the built environment, and as well as larger catalytic redevelopment projects which drive growth not just for their particular location but also for the region. As an organization, we've also added to our strategic plan elements that aren't as explicit in the economic development strategy, what we call effective stewardship, which is how we manage the organization, in particular how we manage public resources. We're a taxpayer-funded organization, and so we have an obligation to manage those resources responsibly. And then on the top is our commitment to social equity. The recently adopted Portland Plan has social equity as one of its primary goals, and the city itself is trying to make good on that in terms of the Office of Equity and pushing out equity initiatives throughout the various city bureaus. So we're committed to that as well. We're committed to that not just in our work in the city, making sure that the benefits of our work flow to all residents, and particularly residents who have historically not benefited from the growth in the city, but we're also committed to that internally as an organization, to demonstrating that we can advance social equity internally as well. So as I mentioned, so I kind of previewed that. So this is basically the same graphic on the economic development strategy. So let me first just talk about over the past 3.5 years since the strategy was adopted, and we immediately began our focus on trying to grow jobs. We've assisted over 500 businesses. Our direct investment, or the direct investment of the programs that we operate, like the Enterprise Zone, has been about $75 million over that time. The past, like I said, it's a little over 3 years. 10-to-1 leverage, basically. Significant amount of leverage from our work. This is exactly the kind of, not just, you'll see the job creation numbers on the next page, but in terms of how we make best use of public dollars, once again, this is how we do it. We make sure that there's a lot of private investment. A lot of this private investment is driven by a real uptick in activity within our enterprise zones. Our enterprise zone, we now have 2, but this is all from the first enterprise zone, but also from our loan programs and other programs. Job creation, we track job creation in 2 different ways. The first way is direct job creation. So we look at the businesses that we work with, and we track actually what happens with the jobs in those businesses. So you can see that we've impacted almost 5,000, I'm sorry, almost over 4,000 jobs. So both new jobs on the left side here, as well as jobs retained. And you can see the breakdown there. We have tried to do a better job of tracking the job growth that we're seeing in the businesses that we're helping. So it's not just, are we seeing job growth in the businesses we're working with, but are they small businesses? Are they startups? Are they businesses that are within our clusters? So we're trying to make sure that our results are really targeted to our mission. And then the second thing is the overall macroeconomy. Or the regional economy or the city economy. We said 3.5 years ago that was one of the outputs of the strategies, we wanted to create 10,000 new jobs in 5 years. What we basically said was we wanted to see the local economy grow by net jobs of 10,000, and that's actually happened. The numbers on the left, if you see, it's roughly 15,000 jobs since the implementation of the strategy in July 2009, and corresponding, you've seen the decline in the unemployment rate within Multnomah County. We really track it at Multnomah County. It's the best place for us to get data on job and unemployment numbers, and I'll get back to the job numbers in a second. But the unemployment rate, it's really significant in that you can see the lines there crossed. The blue line is now crossed. We are below both Oregon and the national average, and being below the national average is a pretty recent phenomenon. One of our objectives when we were looking at putting together the economic development strategy is how do we avoid the dynamic that's happened within Portland and Oregon that is really, we suffer from recessions much harder than other parts of the region. We come out later, and it really has to do with the cyclical nature of some of our industries. This is, I think this is a positive trend in that will hopefully continue in that we're coming out of the recession earlier and faster than other parts of the country. I should say, obviously, we show the 2 different slides because the first slide is the direct impact. Obviously, there's other things going on in the economy than things that we touch, and it's worth noting that metro areas around the country are actually faring better as we come out of the recession. Portland, I think there's been some recent studies that have come out that show Portland is doing better than we should be doing relative to other metros, but nonetheless, most metro areas are doing well, and so the dynamic we have in Oregon is that the Portland metro is doing well, and the rest of the state actually isn't. And when you see the Oregon numbers that are always in the paper, it's the mixture of the 2. But what's really happening is an urban-rural divide that while we can be happy about our success in the metro area, it is something the state is going to have to grapple with, and I think even those of us in the metro area are going to have to figure out how our economy helps lift the rest of the state's economy as well. So just want to jump into a quick summary of some of the accomplishments within our respective areas of our strategy. Within our traded sector strategy, we focus on 4 clusters. We have software, athletic and outdoor, clean tech, and advanced manufacturing. And so we have some results for each of these. And I'll just mention that with the exception of advanced manufacturing, we have actually seen job growth within each of our clusters. So when you drill down and look in the clusters, they actually are benefiting from what's going on within the economy, and that's gratifying to hear when you pick clusters at the beginning of a strategy, and you say you're going to proactively work with these industries. Obviously, the economy can take you in a different direction you want to go, and I think the local economy is actually helping these industries. But we've had a number of victories in terms of local companies that have moved here or are growing here. We've established a Portland Seed Fund. We have other entrepreneurship initiatives. There's a lot of momentum here in Portland around this. A lot of it's focused on downtown, both on the east side as well as in the Pearl. But we put ourselves on the map for technology and software companies, and we think that's going to continue to grow. Advanced manufacturing, as I mentioned, the job numbers aren't the same as the other three clusters. It's the dynamic we're seeing within manufacturing around the country is that companies are making investments, they're growing output, but they're mainly doing that through increase in productivity and investments in capital. So this is a national manufacturing story that is playing out, and this is part of the reality that we have to work with in helping our manufacturing sector. We still think that there's job opportunity here as the workforce ages, but it probably is the case that there won't be a lot of net growth in manufacturing jobs. Output will continue to grow. Regionally, we'll see things like the high-tech manufacturing industry will grow, but some of the more traditional manufacturing industries are not likely to see job growth, but we still think that they remain a vital part of the economy, and we'll continue to work with local companies. And it's also the industry where we see the most activity within the enterprise zone. On clean technology, overall, when you aggregate what's going on in clean tech, which we include not just clean energy like solar and wind, but also things like our green building industry and green development, and energy efficiency work within that sector, but also things like electric vehicles. We see overall growth, and we see promise. Obviously, there are news stories out there about the future of the solar industry and what's going on with Vestas and Iberdrola. And these industries obviously are experiencing some challenging times in their life cycle. We still believe that long-term clean energy industries like wind and solar are good bets because the demand for renewables will continue to go up, and U.S. policy is really what's holding back or creating uncertainty in these industries. But in order for all the demand for renewable energy to be met over the next 5, 10, 20 years, there has to be a dramatic increase in capacity and production, and so that will come out of companies like Vestas and Iberdrola and SolarWorld. But in other industries, green building and whatnot, as we see the real estate market pick up, those are also increasing, and then we're also seeing companies want to be here, and we really do believe Portland is the capital of the clean energy economy, and so we know that companies like Vestas and Iberdrola and Solo Power want to be here because of our talent base and our in the proximity to other similar companies. And the last, of course, is the athletic and outdoor industry. This industry continues to thrive. It is the presence of Nike and Adidas and Columbia sportswear in this region. In some respects, make this an easy industry to support, and so we try and be helpful and complementary. But we know that companies move here all the time. The companies in the bottom, like High Tech or Sugar or Garment, those companies come here all the time without us doing a lot, mainly because they want to be close to Nike and close to Adidas and Columbia sportswear, and they want access to talent, or they're part of the supply chain there. This is a true cluster. This is, I do think, a signature industry for the state in large part because it operates like an ecosystem, like a cluster should. Big companies, little companies, companies that swap talent, and companies that supply to each other. So we are very optimistic about the long-term future of this industry. As I mentioned, we focus on some other things, entrepreneurship. I won't spend a lot of time on that, but we continue to see positive trends in terms of new businesses, investment in those businesses, in terms of innovation, in terms of the venture capital presence. We've also, during the past year, launched an export strategy with the help of the Brookings Institution, and we're one of only 4 metro areas in the country that participated in that initiative. So we actually have a metro export plan that's being implemented by our partner, Greater Portland, Inc., and that's designed to drive export growth from Portland and Portland area companies. It's the first time that we've ever had a strategy actually that was explicit about looking at the local economy and identifying the companies best suited to export and helping them realize that. And it's completely aligned with the National Export Initiative, which is the Obama administration's initiative to double exports in 5 years. And just one last point on that, the Portland metro area is one of the most trade-dependent areas in the country. I think at one point, the last thing we were probably the second most trade-dependent metro area in the country. That has pluses and minuses. Overall, I think it's good. If we're trying to grow a traded sector economy, if you're trying to expand your economy, having a local economy that already has existing pipelines to other countries is probably the fastest way to grow your economy. So the challenge for us is to take what's already a great base and to grow that. But once again, it's a central part of our strategy. So the second part is this green circle, which I referred to both as driving urban innovation, but also the central city vitality. And as I mentioned, this is the way that we've kind of redirected our redevelopment work into a number of different categories. The first is what we refer to as the next generation built environment. And this really is how do we support what is recognized internationally as a leadership position in green building and sustainability. And we believe this is not just a policy initiative or nice to have or a value statement. It really is economic development. We have in our green development cluster a large number of internationally recognized companies that do business now in Asia and the Middle East because of their work in projects here in Portland. And we would like to continue to help those companies work on next generation projects. So whether it's the Oregon Sustainability Center or whether it's eco districts, these are, or even the neighborhood project, the Juneteenth Delta Center, which was managed by a number of small contracting firms. Those firms all now have expertise from working on those projects that really doesn't exist elsewhere in the country. They can sell that abroad. That grows that grows their market, and it also promotes Portland. It promotes the Portland brand, and then more companies want to be here, and more investment wants to be here. We're fortunate to have partners in PSU and others who actually share the same mission around sustainability. And so things like Electric Avenue are examples of initiatives around electric vehicles that we can use as demonstration projects that promote our local industry. Part of the urban innovation is maintaining a vital downtown core. I think one of our values at PDC, and we think that just to share throughout the city, is that the region, the health of the region depends on a healthy urban core. It also depends on healthy neighborhoods and healthy kind of regional jurisdictions, but we certainly need a healthy urban core. So we work hard to maintain downtown as an attractive place to work, attractive place to live, and attractive place to shop. So you see a lot of our work around retail in that regard. We also, we have some catalytic projects in the central city that are designed to continue to promote redevelopment, filling in blocks in downtown that we think are crucial to it. So OCOM, the Oregon College of Oriental Medicine, is moving in a couple blocks away from here in a restoration project across the river at the Burnside Bridgehead. That's a long underused site that we're now beginning to, the first building is being renovated, and that'll be tenanted with local firms. So that's part of our strategy for maintaining the downtown core. And as I mentioned, we believe that despite all the hype and even the hyperbole around the Portland brand and some of the cliches, we believe the Portland brand actually is important to our economic development work. We know from our work promoting the film industry here that we get a lot of national attention because these shows are here. We get a lot of national attention because people now have this image, whether it's real or not, through Portlandia, of being in Portland, and we feel like that's all a positive. I know that there's people get locally can feel like, well, we're not being portrayed the right way, but I can tell you that when you travel around the country, the response is mostly positive, and it really does. People want to come here. They want to visit here, and they want to do business here. And then another aspect of our downtown, of our kind of urban innovation and central city vitality mission is around higher ed. And PSU and OHSU PSU is the largest higher ed institution in the state of Oregon. OHSU is a major research institution, the largest employer in the city of Portland. These are anchor institutions, not just within higher ed and within healthcare, but they're anchor institutions for downtown, for making sure that downtown remains a vital place. People come downtown to interact with these institutions. So we will continue to work with these institutions, invest in their initiatives, support their growth. And so you see things like not just our long-standing work with OHSU, but the new Portland State and Education Urban Renewal Area. Lots of discussion around that. That's a very targeted urban renewal area designed to create dollars that we can invest in that geography around PSU, because we believe PSU has the opportunity to become a world-class university by becoming a world-class university, and even more recognized than it is now. That's only that has benefits for Portland, Portland's brand, and we believe for Portland's economy. So the last category I want to talk about is our neighborhood economic development work. So when I mentioned when we put forth the economic development strategy 3.5 years ago, we had this third circle here, stimulate neighborhood vitality, and we had a handful of initiatives in there, but we knew that that's what we had in the strategy did not adequately address our ambitions around neighborhood economic development. So the following year we began work on a more comprehensive neighborhood economic development strategy that would fit within our economic development ambitions. And so this strategy was finished about 1.5 years ago, and we've been implementing it now during that time. And so what you'll see is a focus on a number of different areas within neighborhood economic development. The first one is around focusing on commercial districts. You're going to see community capacity building and other areas of focus. What I will say, and for those of you who represent neighborhood, URA, URACs, there is a strategic shift here in that when we think about neighborhood economic development, it's about working with businesses and commercial districts and trying to create healthy commercial districts and healthy businesses, and that in doing so you create jobs and you create stability within neighborhoods, and that flows out to the rest of the neighborhood. There are obviously other aspects of neighborhood development and community development that are outside of the mission of the neighborhood economic development strategy. We recognize that. We are working in concert with our city partners as well as neighborhood partners, and the Portland Plan in of itself actually outlines all, the kind of comprehensive set of work that needs to happen in neighborhoods. But our focus is really on the neighborhood economic development piece. So just want to make sure that context, and I do think it's important that if we want to talk about what's outside of this, what's in the Portland Plan, how the folks from other bureaus plan to implement the Portland Plan, I think those are we should talk about how we have those conversations, how they inform the work that you do on the URACs. But once again, it's not going to be PDC driven. It'll be driven by other agencies and other organizations outside of the city government. So on the neighborhood commercial district side, we really are focused on trying to. We established 6 neighborhood prosperity initiative districts. So we picked 6 areas that weren't in existing URAs, created small-scale urban renewal areas, limited pot of money. There's no long-term debt, so it's a different form of urban renewal, and it was designed, once again, to get dollars targeted to specific commercial districts. So there's 6 of those. We also have 3 existing main streets that are in other parts of the city that are doing similar work and have similar resources. So those 9 areas represent for us kind of the test cases for how do we drive economic development within very defined neighborhood commercial districts. In addition to that, within our urban renewal areas, the existing ones, Interstate, Gateway, and Lents, we're going to be focusing on specific commercial districts like Lentstown Center or areas within with interstate. So what we're trying to do is figure out how can we really influence what happens in the growth of those commercial districts. And the most important thing we're trying to do there is create or foster the growth of local organizations that really are going to drive that growth there. So business associations and other organizations that are going to manage this process. So that's a lot of the work that we're doing around the MPI initiative, and the Main Street initiative is working directly with the local organizations that represent each of those districts to help establish their long-term plans and help them implement those plans. In addition to that, we're trying to be more active working directly with businesses throughout the neighborhoods. We've taken dollars that the city would normally appropriate directly to specific organizations. We aggregated those dollars, put out an RFP, and we now have a group of 5 different collections of community organizations that are providing technical assistance to businesses across the city and across different needs and across different communities of color. So those organizations are working directly with businesses. We've created a partnership with Craft 3, a local not-for-profit lender, to make dollars available for lending in our neighborhoods in addition to the programs that we operate. And we also run our microenterprise program. So this is the part of our neighborhood economic development ambitions where we, working with other service providers, are trying to grow the volume of businesses that we're working with directly and helping provide the resources that they need, whether it be dollars in loan dollars, whether it be technical assistance or other forms of assistance. And it's not just our dollars. It's meant to be, who's the best provider, the best lender to meet the needs of the particular business. If we work with a business and we can refer them to a local lender and they make a loan, that's a victory for us. As I mentioned, we've been working on the community capacity building side of this, which is what's the organizational infrastructure in our neighborhoods that can carry on this work. City budgets go up and down. PDC's long-term budget trends are definitely going down. So it's vital that there's an infrastructure in place that can support this work. And so what we're trying to do is help those organizations do that. We've worked directly with Venture Portland, which is the umbrella group for the commercial districts throughout the city, to help us with that effort. And we believe that they're a strong ally in this work and will continue to be a resource regardless of whatever the level of funding is from the city. But like I said, we're going to continue to work directly with organizations within our urban renewal areas as well as these 9 other areas to make sure that these organizations have the capacity to carry on the commercial corridor work. So that is I don't know, Keith, if I stayed on my schedule here, but that's a very quick move through our strategic plan, our economic development strategy, both the work that we've done the past year and kind of how we view our work going forward.